All right, John. I got into a little Twitter tiff this actually today, hours before this went down.
You?
Yep. It's been a while since I've gotten into a good Twitter beef.
Okay, it's a long time coming.
So there's a website called The Blacklist in Hollywood, and this website is for script writers. You can pay, I think it's like $50 a month. It might even be more than that these days per script to have it sit on this website, and executives or insiders might read your script. And if they do read your script, they can then rate your script, which is either an immediate scarlet letter or immediate boost, and they filter to the top. And there's a decent number of scripts each year that get picked up, optioned, produced through the Blacklist.
Okay.
When it started out, it was a great thing for writers because the Blacklist started out as the best scripts that weren't optioned from the year before, and everybody wanted to have a script on this top 10 Blacklist because it was almost certain to be one of the first scripts to be produced the following year.
Okay, how long does it stay?
It's $50 a month to have your script hosted on there, or at least it was last I checked. I tuned out when I'm like everything else in LA. The memberships and the subscriptions is how they drain you to try to get access and
I bet
opportunities in this industry is all through subscriptions and month-to-month fees and things. So per script, you have to pay a hosting fee, and then if you want people to read it and review it and not just stumble across it and find it, then you have to pay extra for the reading and the coverage and that type of stuff. And there's a lot of good value there. There's a lot of professional, polished feedback and things that you can use and be beneficial and help raise the profile of your work. And if your work is good, there is a direct opportunity for people that can do something with it to read it. So
okay, good.
The whole premise of the Blacklist, I'm 100% behind and all for. My issue comes with the bringing in of the studios and the networks to make these demographic contests to get opportunities and doors into the industry to find diverse and underrepresented voices in the diversity and all of that throughout the world. In theory, I'm 100% behind this and support this. However, writing, in my opinion, is the one true thing where somebody's race, color, creed, sexual orientation, none of these things should matter to the quality of the story being told. I shouldn't be able to know any of those things about the writer by the story being told. A good story is a good story. And on the page, that story exists in black and white, so that story should speak for itself. So out of anything else in this industry, the one thing that should be unbiased from segregation or racism or personal agendas is the script, is the story. I'm a purist in that sense. So when you're trying to find the next great story or the next piece of writing to get developed and move up the ranks and this, that, and the other thing, the person's background, gender, demographic, color of skin, none of these things should matter to whether or not that script is good, whether or not that script justifies this person getting an opportunity. So we should all be competing against the same goalpost, the same end marker of it has to be a great story for it to move on and rise above the rest. It should be every writer competing against every other writer. If you want to segregate it by genres, fine. If you want to segregate it by budgets or anything production-wise, fine. But when you start segregating it by the background of the writers, now you're just tipping the scales. Because I'll give you an example. Let's say there's a Filipino demographic, and the Filipino script writing person has to submit, and the only people they have to beat out to get an opportunity into the industry and have the door open up is other Filipino writers. And already that's a small minority of a small minority that you're up against, so your odds of succeeding against that simply go through the roof, not because of the quality of your writing, but because of the reduction of your competition. Meanwhile, somebody else has to go through, they have to compete against everybody. They have to be the best writer fair of all the writers out there, and maybe even more so to overcome a bias. And I don't think any bias should exist. The answer to things used to be biased one way is not just make things biased the other way. That's just changing who's got the power and who's the subject. You have to, at some point, treat everybody equal and fair. And if you can't do that with writing, where you don't have to see or know anything about the writer to enjoy a story, what can you do it with, John? That's my question, and that was my argument and beef that I brought up in Twitter. And the Blacklist founder, Franklin, he took exception to it in a very polite and respectful way. And then another guy chimed in, and he wanted to try to twist it around. And they both kept trying to walk me into some sort of response where I would make it about a racial thing. And I knew this was coming a mile away, John. So when I tried to explain the issue, and you can see it right on my Gratcast Films Twitter account. I explained it as, listen, I'm going to explain this in a way that can't be manipulated, taken out of context, as we spoke about last week, the soundbite culture, and I'm going to make it about plants. If you're having a contest to find the best plant in the forest, and the oak tree only has to compete against the other oak trees to be the best oak tree plant in the forest, and the rose bush. Now, I don't understand why there'd be rose bushes in the forest, but my plant vocabulary is limited at best to oak trees and rose bushes.
Excellent.
Yeah. So then you judge the rose bush by the fact they have to beat out every plant in the forest, not just the oak tree, the pine tree, the cherry wood tree, the bushes, the moss. So obviously, the rose bush is up against a lot slimmer odds and a greater pool of competition than the oak tree that just has to be the best oak tree. If your sole goal is to find the best stories, the most marketable scripts, and not just pander to the appearance of diversity, then you want the script that rose above the rest and went against the stiffest competition. And if they happen to have some different demographics or a unique background, that's an added bonus to marketing and selling the story. But to go the other way and work backwards reduces the quality of content that the audience ends up getting on the back end. And I'm going to tell you this, the only person that wants to win that way, wants to get a job that way, and wants to get their foot through the door that way is the piker that doesn't have the talent in the first place. Because I don't care what background you are, I'll use mine. I'm a straight white guy. I don't want to be known as the best straight white guy writer that ever existed. I want to be known as a great writer. And I'm pretty sure that any other good writer would feel the same way regardless of what their demographic is. Who wants to be known for that and be pandered to for that? Like they think we're not smart enough to see through this.